What is good, y'all? Welcome back to ACEON Consciousness, and today we're going to jump right into it. Two things today. One, if you hear the AC in the back, it's because I'm here in LA, and it is pretty damn hot out. So, got that AC running, otherwise I'm going to be here sweating, and it's not going to be a good look. Number two, let's talk about dating in LA, and not just dating in general, but dating consciously. And I say that meaning not just, basically what I'm getting at is when your consciousness is woken up and you're vibrating at a different level, one of the side effects, I guess you could call it, is life's going to be a little bit lonelier. And I don't say lonely in a bad way, but it's like a sacred solitude. You just move a little, you move about the world differently, you view the world differently. And I'm speaking just personally. So for those of you who out there waking up and, raising your consciousness, it might be different, but this is all just personal experience. You lose interest in the things that you used to be interested in. Like I used to love sports and movies and things, and things just don't hit the same. And so it also affects, you can be in a room and sometimes you feel like I don't have much in common with these people anymore. Like I can make conversation with anybody. It's what I do for my job, but like deeper intellectual, like engaging conversations that are like stimulating. It doesn't happen all the time because people just, things I want to talk about can often end up just being a debate. And it's like, I don't want to debate. I want to talk about this stuff. So I want someone who gets this. So I've noticed it does serve as a little bit of a block when it comes to the dating world in LA, which is already in itself hellacious. Dating in LA is terrible, and this could be a whole nother. I mean, it is. There's podcasts and things just on dating, and I'm sure dating in LA because it's just so different. So, so many other factors. But what I've noticed is and I'm not out there trying to be a player. That's not my style. But I am trying to find someone that I can connect with. And what I keep running into now is we're not on the same page with things. Like we're not eye to eye, and my views on things and my understanding of things and how I view the world and whatnot doesn't click with most people. And so this is something I've ended up running into continuously now. So it's just kind of like I'm accepting it, like, all right, well, it just means that the right one eventually is going to come along. I had a couple years ago, really cool girl, artistic, like vibed on so many levels, and then just in conversation we were talking about like deal breakers. It was right before we went into this movie. It was like date 3, I think. It was awesome. And I had said something about deal breaks. She's like, oh, what's your deal breaker? And I was like, oh, I was just it was like a casual. And I was like, I wasn't ready for this. And I just, speaking from experience, said I can't date anyone who's super religious because I've done it before and it doesn't work. And like automatically click, like it was a switch. I could tell that wasn't going to work for her because apparently finding out later she had recently converted and she's all on that board, which is fine, just won't work for me. So there's that. Met someone at work years ago. We went out and had a drink. It was, it was cool. It was a good time, but I had just started really dating someone else. And again, at that point, we had connected. And so I just told this girl, I was like, hey, look, I started dating someone. I don't want to mess things up because things are going really good. And she's like, no, I totally appreciate the transparency and best of luck, because she was kind of in a relationship too. So that split, and then things didn't work out with the girl I was seeing. So I hit up this girl, like it was like over a year later, and I was like, hey, how are things? She's like, oh my gosh, what a pleasant surprise, blast from the past, whatever. And at this point, her and her relationship were going really well. I was like, oh, that's great. Like, wish you the best. I'm glad to hear things are good. Caught up real quick. Boom. And then a few months ago, which was a year following last time we had talked, I get this random message from her, and she's like, hey, this is me, hoping you have my number saved. And I was like, oh shit, yes, this is cool. Chit chatting for like 3 or 4 days, about 3 days, back and forth, quick responses. Things were moving good because it was like an organic thing and we didn't meet on an app, so it was a lot easier. Talking about interests. Had a date set up for like, this was Sunday, and we had a date set up for Tuesday. And I like this. I'm a romantic. That's my shit. I enjoy it. I enjoy the aspect of romance and, dates and surprises and those type of things. And so, I might branch off here and do a whole section on this because it's something that I enjoy. But so I was glad I had planned the date. I had everything set up. And then she worked in the comic book world, so I was asking her about that. And she was giving me some things that she likes and things, anime things she'd recommend. Because I'm really not into it. I was like, cool, what would you recommend? Like, I start with. And then she asked what I'm interested in. Like, what do you like to, learn about? And I told her, I was like, mentioned, like ancient civilizations and, this guy back here, the flat Earth. And she said, wait. Hold on. She's like, does this mean that you think the world is flat? And I said, well, I think the world is not a ball flying through space. And so I said, I think it's not quite what we've been told. Well, I know it's not what we've been told, but I don't know for sure what it is. And then she said, okay, pause. Now I have to ask, who did you vote for in the last election? I was like, well, this lighting is terrible. There we go. I said, I voted for myself because I think both of the candidates we had were clowns, and I know if I was in position, I would do better than either one of them. And that didn't sit right with her because and then I explained more. I said, honestly, but if I'm being fully clear, I don't believe in I don't believe in this two-party state thing. Like, that's the illusion. Is like we have, it's Democrat, Republican, but it's a one-party state, and I knowing what I know now, there's just so much more to it. It's just all an illusion, right? So I was like, I choose to focus like my attention on like the deeper meaning, like not meaning, but like the deeper root of it. What's the hand that's moving both puppets, if you will, and that didn't sit well with her. She's like, oh, well, with me being a black woman, mentioned being marginalized, and I said, look, and she's on the liberal side. I said, that's fine. I said, I have friends that are liberals. We don't necessarily need to talk politics, but I said, again, I don't worry about that stuff. I like, deeper, again, I focus on the deeper stuff, like on, the more the root of everything. And she's like, then all of a sudden it was a couple hours without a response, which I don't care, but just at the pace it was going, for all of a sudden for a couple hours, I was like, oh, I know the gears are churning. And then she just responded back. I don't have the message anymore, but basically, hey, you're a sweet guy. I appreciate you being open, but this isn't going to work for me. I was like, all right. And then, again, I'm all over the place in what I like to watch. I'm watching this video on sigils and cymatics of all things. And this was right after this happened with this girl. And I'm reading the comments. I don't do it often. This comment pops up right here, and literally, okay, so it says, I've literally had men break up with me because I tell them these things. The guys have broken up with this lady simply because they were like, you believe that? That's too far out there. So I know people have their stances on things and viewpoints, and especially when it comes to religion and certain things, they do not want to question certain things, and so respect. So again, a couple weeks ago, well, here we go. For those of you that don't know, my day-to-day job currently, I'm a bartender. Been doing it for a while all over LA, some really nice spots. And where I'm at now, I have a nice, decent amount of regulars, ones who I love dearly. And there's one lady, and she is so sweet, and she is this radiant ball of energy. And she's been coming in for a little bit, not a lot, but when she does come in, it's just always a great surprise. And one time she came in, and I saw she had this really cute friend with her, and I'm like, look at that. And I didn't get a chance to like go over and like meet the friend and also just talk because it was busy. So it's like, damn. Well, then fast forward a couple months later, which happened to be early June, late May, early June. I see her coming in where I work, and she waves, and I give her a big wave, and she's got this same friend with her with another friend. I'm like, oh shoot, her friend's like, yes, this is good. And it wasn't that busy, so I was like, oh, I'll get a chance to talk. So introduced everybody. I was like, oh, this is cool. And I was like, yeah, her friend is really cute. I was definitely feeling her. So I told my friend, I said, hey, who's your, I said, what's up with your friend? We're just going to call her friend Kim. I said, what's up with Kim? She was like, what do you mean? I said, is she single? She goes, well, she is. Are you interested? I said, absolutely. And so she mentioned how she's, is new back into the dating world. She was in a long relationship, and it could take some time. And I was like, that's fine, because I'm in no rush. Like, again, I'm not like a serial dater. So I said, look, take my number, give it to her. If she's interested, great. If not, no big deal, And then a month later, this is 4th of July, I get this message, and she's like, hey, it's Kim. I don't know if you remember me. I met with you, last month. I was like, of course I remember you. So we started chatting. Things were good. Set up a date. Went on a date. First date. Haven't had a first date like that in a while. Awesome. Shut down. We went to a little wine bar. Shut that down. We didn't drink a ton, but we were just talking to where the point I was like, oh, it's like we're the last two people in here. We should probably go. Went on another date. FaceTime. And it was great because she was like wanting to FaceTime me. Because I didn't want to, I'm more like, more reserved with this because I don't want to be over like, And she'd be like, hey, you free? You want to FaceTime? I was like, yeah. So everything was going good. Went on a second date. Awesome. Went bowling. Haven't done bowling in a while. Bowling and pool. Come on now. And then we was FaceTiming. We were just chatting. And then something about... I joked about a conspiracy theory or something. I don't remember. And she said, okay, you mentioned you're a conspiracy theorist. So, like, what is that? What exactly does that mean? And I said, well, I'm to the point now where I question everything. So I'll take whatever someone tells me, process it, use discernment, figure out what makes sense to me, and if I might be able to take something from this conspiracy theory, whatever you want to call it, and connect it to something else, because again, I like to connect the dots on like deeper levels, if you will. And she said, well, okay, like, what about 9/11? Do you think... I said, what about it? She said, do you think it was Osama bin Laden and the hijackers? Do you think it was what they said it was? And I said, and again, we're FaceTiming. So I said, oh, and I'm right here, right where I'm basically right next to where I'm standing or sitting now. And I said, funny you should mention that because I have this book. So I show her this book. David Icke's The Trigger, right? Look at this thing. It's almost 900 pages. Yeah, it's like about 850 pages. It's basically 2 books in one. So I show her this book. And now I haven't read all that book, but I said, so this book here talks just about that exact thing, about who it was, who it wasn't, who was behind it, why they did it, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, oh, okay. And again, for some people, it's just they hear it, but then to hear someone who's really on board with this, or who, a lot of times you hear these theories, but you really don't talk to people who, about them, or if you do it, you have the same viewpoint. So it's like you just clown someone or be like, can you believe people believe this, blah, blah, blah. And then she's like, I knew the question was coming. Because it's always that, like, one of those polarity ones. It's always at the far end. She goes, okay, but like flat Earth, for instance. What do you think about flat Earth? And I said, that's funny. Funny you mentioned that because I've got my map. And so I showed her, I flipped the camera around and showed her this one. And then I said, and check this out. And then I flipped it around, and I showed her this one. Right? The Gleasons. And at that point, things got a little silent, and she was super sweet. She kind of was like, I've never, like, sorry if, I don't mean to judge, I just never actually, like, talked to a flat earther before. And I was like, no, that's fine. And I told her, I said, look, it's not for everyone. It's about 5 years ago, well, more than 5 now, but I said but this stuff 5 years ago, if you would have told me this, I would have told you you're crazy. So I said, at one point I was right where you were at, and she's like, all right, she's like, I'm going to be honest, I have to process this and really take some time. And I was like, all good. And then again, we had been vibing and talking throughout the day, texting, chatting. So the next day I didn't hear from her at all. And I knew it was coming. Trust me. I know it was coming. I'm not a fortune teller, but I knew. And then sure enough, the next morning we were supposed to go out. We had a date. We were going to take her to the Hollywood Bowl. And for those of you who haven't been, you got to go. That shit is dope.
How you feeling, Los Angeles?
Even if you don't know who's playing, if you're like, I don't know who this is, you got to go. The experience is great. And then I wake up, and I've cut part of this off, but I get this message from Kim, and it says this. Then blah, 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 blah. And then it says, I do appreciate you sharing your views with me. At this time, I am looking for someone whose views align with mine. Totally respect it, because I get it, and I'm the same way. She said, I did have a great time getting to know you. Thank you so much for the dates. It is a lovely connection, and you are a wonderful human being. So, at least I'm not a douchebag. I'm not an asshole. Right? I don't mind being the good guy, because that's my lane, right? I've tried the other people. You just gotta be an asshole. It's not me. It doesn't feel right. So, so the last two, it's like, look, we don't align on this, but you're a good person. Just good luck to you. So my response to her was the middle finger. Just kidding. Not at all. I was like, look, I get it. Please don't feel awkward. I said, you can still come visit me at the bar. And I said, if at any point you start questioning things, reality, or have any questions on any of this stuff, I said, please keep my number and feel free to reach out. And I said, I will answer any questions that I can, because, like I was saying just a second ago, I said I was there. I know at one point I had my closed mind, and I didn't understand things. And once I started waking up or getting tapped into things, it really just started to spiral in a way where you're like, oh, I just want to know more. So let's see. Everyone has that. This is what I tell one of my closest friends. I said, everybody, I think we're all born with, I don't know if we're born with a veil, because I think when we're born, we come in with a lot more tapped in, like, open consciousness. And then in our young age, that shuts off and there's a veil put on. The programming starts, and that's kind of how life goes for us. And, whatever it is, that's what we get. Whether it's, the education system, Santa, the moon landing, the sun, the solar system, science, just all that stuff. Like, goes in and it goes out, as far as it's like it goes in and out the same books we're supposed to read, and the same kind of system. And so we just get programmed, and then at some point, typically for ones who are open to the idea of even, so basically we're programmed, and the veil's put on us, and the program all like exists underneath the veil, if you will. And we don't even know we're being programmed. We think we have free will, but it's an illusion. And then at some point, for people like myself and many of us, and the goal is for everyone, is your veil gets pierced. And I don't know what that is. For someone, it could be for my friend Dave. Hey, Dave.
Hello, Poppy.
It was this type of thing. Let's see if I can get the reflection. Right? It was the flat earth. It was the, not necessarily this book, but it was the flight patterns. That, like, this didn't make sense. And that was for him, was like, this is weird. So he started, that had him scratching his head, and then he started looking into things. And then one thing led to another, and now he's open. And again, it's not just flat earth. It's some people, my friend, it was the Charlie Kirk. My dear friends went in the military, when the Navy went in, served all his time, retired, and after retirement, which was not too long ago, he's just whatever doing work. Charlie Kirk incident happens, and he's like, huh? Like, what? And that was his Pierce, where he started questioning, it just didn't add up. And then he's like, so again, once you just get in there, that will lead to one other thing. And that, next thing you know, how did Charlie Kirk's whatever happened in Utah lead him to flat earth? I don't know, but he was sending me stuff, and he's like, oh yeah, the earth's flat, bro. And that, and I was like, I know. And then he's like, whoa, wait, like, he realized we were on the same page, and we've been talking, and because we only talked every so often, so it was really cool to be like, oh shoot, he's tapped in. And for him to go 20 years in the military like that, and then realize, like, oh, the system I was in is not, again, it's that the veil pierce, and then it's the accepting, I've been duped, I've been lied to, I believe that. And then the more you're just open to it, the more the information will flood in. And so again, you keep taking steps back, and you just start seeing the bigger picture. And it's like one of those magic eye things back in the day. You got your eyes, you just have to adjust. Or not one of the magic eyes, the ones where you stand up, and then as you get back, the image, But anyway, it's, just consciously dating and things in this world. It's finding someone that you connect with, and it's a lot more challenging. But this whole Sigma male thing I just came across, I think that's what it's called. Let me see if I make sure I'm talking about this right. Sigma male. So I came across this. This is interesting. Like, I've always felt like this, and then something the other day came up on my feed, and it mentioned this whole Sigma male thing, and that was for me like, oh shit, that's totally me. Like, as much as I want to be with someone, and I love, again, romance and the idea of partnership and companionship and intimacy, I am okay without it. And so my insecurities aren't like where I need someone else to validate me. So I'm fine being this like lone wolf, or whatever label you want to put on it. So it's okay I can be a lot more selective, because if something doesn't work out, it's like, great, I'm totally fine being myself. I got my lovely space here. I do my travels. I keep my bubble kind of small and just go about my ways. So I just know when the right one comes along, dating, it help. When you're looking for something different like this on this level, it makes dating a little more challenging, but it also, you don't really submit to the whole dating game thing. It's because it's like not about status and the dumb shit that we just get so wrapped up in it. You realize the true meaning of like what you really want, like that spiritual. Once that you pop that spiritual lid off, you realize that that's the juice that flows into all aspects of health. And so when you spiritually are tapped in and consciously awake like that, it shifts other parts of your life and teaches you to self-love, and just, again, it's okay to be alone without being lonely. And even if you are a little lonely, it's okay to be like, yeah, it would be nice to have some companionship, but not having to rely on someone for validation and those things, and sitting with yourself and being okay with that without going crazy. In prison, it's like number one thing they will do besides the death penalty is like solitary confinement as a punishment. Like, sit with your thoughts and just whatever's in your head, and you'll go crazy, because most people can't do it. So to be able to find that, again, that sacred solitude, is so important. And once you have that, it's like, I won't give that up for just nothing. It's like I need someone who's going to come in and just, we're going to just vibe together and compliment me. I don't need someone to complete me. So that being said, all the best to all you out there in the single dating world, especially out here in LA and in these big cities. But LA, anyone who's out in LA listening to this right now is nodding their head going, yep, that shit sucks. Because people, I've told my friends, and like, people just like, no, dating's hard everywhere. I'm like, yeah, but it's like extra fat out here in LA. So any of you spiritually tapped in, consciously awoken women out there, holla at your boy. This is ACEON Consciousness. I'll catch you on the next episode, and I'm out.